And the verb enfermarse is reflexive because it ends with se. What's another verb that you can think of that's reflexive, that has se on it, that we've talked about recently or pops in your head? Divertirse. Excelente. So how do we know divertirse is reflexive? And when I say reflexive, what do I mean grammatically? What does that mean? Of say. Okay? And these were on your homework. And also, during the hurricane, you were supposed to, and some people did, watch the Flash Cultura video about Argentina and La Guardia. And based on that video, we can conclude, in Argentina, se usa La Guardia. What's that saying? In Argentina, what does se usa mean? In Argentina, they use, right, exactly. They use La Guardia, okay? And now we know what the meaning is. Let's focus on the grammar. This verb might look reflexive, but it's not because it's actually conveying a different idea. And this will make more sense as we go through it. But at first glance, grammatically speaking, is this verb, se usa, singular or plural? Is it a singular verb or is it plural? Singular. How do we know that? How do we know this verb is singular? Well, maybe we can come back to that here in a second when we look at some other verbs that are plural. And then we'll go back to the explanation here in a, well, see. There's no N, and it's because of law. Both of you are correct. So they use is kind of how it translates. And then I'll go back and tell you what that's classified as, that concept of they use. But what Aaron and Sam are saying is it's singular. This verb is singular because it doesn't have the letter N on it like the other ones. And it's singular, Aaron pointed out, because la is singular. And we'll do these examples on Monday because they apply to what we're talking about on Monday. Let's look at otro ejemplo. Okay, you're going to see this use of say that I'm getting to with this presentation a lot when you travel in a Spanish-speaking country. And you'll see why when we talk about when it's used. A lot of times you see this use of say on signs all over the place. In Spanish-speaking country, obviously there's signs. And you'll remember this, actually. It'll come to mind. There's one that's coming up that you'll be like, I do remember seeing that. The say is used a lot, and we'll talk about why here in a second. But what is this sign saying? You're in a Spanish-speaking country, and you're a smoker, and you see this sign. No smoking, right? Exactly. Okay, so we know that's what it means. Now let's take a look at the grammar. We have our say here. There's our say. And then our verb is prohíbe. Is it singular or plural? It's singular. Muy bien. And just to reiterate, why is this verb singular? It doesn't have the N on it. Right, exactly. What is making this verb singular? In the previous example, we had la guardia, and that's what made it singular. What's making prohíbe singular? What determines, maybe, see?
Is it the then?
It's actually fumar. Fumar. Infinitives are always singular. So on the superset or the test or whatever, final exam, I don't know, in your life of speaking Spanish, if you see an infinitive after a verb with the say constructions, kind of like me gusta comer pizza y beber cerveza. Even though comer and beber are two different things, if it's infinitives, it's always singular. Infinitives are always singular when we're talking about concept. Otro ejemplo. No se permiten mascotas. So first, let's focus on the meaning. What is this saying? No pets are allowed, right? So now we just learned the word for pets, mascotas, which is easy to remember because of mascot, right? But mascota is the word for pet. In Spanish, you might hear animal doméstico, but mascotas, right? No se permite mascotas. So otra vez we have the se, and then here's our verb, permiten. Is it singular or plural? It's definitely plural because why? Mascotas and exactly the N. Los dos. So mascotas is plural. And so permiten is plural. Not permitted it. And this would just be like prohibited. Smoking is prohibited, is really what that's saying. Not permitted. Prohibir, permitir. Those are really common. You would see this. All right, this is the one here I was thinking maybe you probably saw in a different context. First of all, what does this mean? Se vende casa? House for sale, right? Remember vender means to sell. Remember that from maybe last spring when we had all the clothes and we set up that market? We used the verb vender. Anyway, all the little kid clothes. Remember that? Okay. So vender means to sell, and this is house for sale. And another one here you probably saw. This is what I was thinking of. Aquila means for rent. Okay. And you would see this, and Harry definitely saw this, and maybe even when you were in Peru or anytime, or when you were in Mexico, when you're walking around a town on the streets, you know, everybody lives in all these apartments, and you'd see se vende, se alquila, se vende, se alquila on their apartment, the sign, so that we know it's for sale or for rent. Is this verb singular or plural? Singular, because why? Why is this verb singular? Because casa is singular, right? It makes our verb singular. For sale, nada más. All right, otro ejemplo que se relaciona con el tema médico de la lección 10. Se necesitan dadores de sangre. What's this one saying? See, Sam?
You need to donate blood.
Sí, muy bien, excelente. You need to donate blood, or we can interpret as blood donors needed. So, salud. We'll go with the first one. You need to donate blood. It's less obvious. Salud. But you need is the big one here. Se necesitan. Is that salud? Is that singular or plural? Plural, because why? Dadores is plural. Exactly. And how did Sam know that sangre was blood? ¿Cómo se llama la bebida alcohólica muy popular en España? Sangría. ¿Qué color es sangría? Roja. ¿Qué color es sangre? Roja. Y por eso, sangre, sangría. No? Dadores are donors like the verb dar. Okay, plural. Uno más. Quality N. Se habla español most of the time. Evidencia de Spanglish en los Estados Unidos. So what's this saying? We speak Spanish. They speak Spanish. Spanish is spoken. Is spoken, or they speak. Either way. Or we speak even. Okay, so now we know what it means. Singular or plural? Singular. ¿Por qué? Español. No, español es singular. So, habla. No, hablan. All right, so a lot of times you see this concept of se on signs, which is why it's called. What does it mean when we say reflexive? Divertirse, enfermarse, reírse, relajarse. What sound do you keep hearing over and over and over again? The se, right? Because when we have se on an infinitive, like divertirse, we know that verb is reflexive. That tells us when you conjugate me, you need to use the reflexive pronoun me enfermaba or te enfermabas. It's reminding us to use that pronoun, okay? So that's what that grammatical term reflexive means. And that pronoun se or me or te always agrees with the conjugation. Me enfermaba or te enfermabas. So we already know all this about reflexive verbs, but today we're going to look at other uses of se, because se is not exclusively always just used with reflexive verbs. So let's take a look at some uses. The impersonal se. That's one use. So we have the reflexive use of se, and then now we're seeing a new use of se, the impersonal se. And as you can see on our papers, when we identified the meaning in the first example, in Argentina, they use the guardia. That's super impersonal. It's like the generic they. Or in the example with you need to donate blood, it can be this generic you. No one specifically, anybody walking by is who we're talking to. So rather than using the to form or the usted form, which is very direct and very specific, we have this concept of the se in Spanish when there's no specific subject. In all the examples, what determined the conjugations of our verbs was not a quote-unquote subject, it was the stuff that came after the verbs, right? But they're not necessarily the subjects. So that's one use of se in Espanol. And then we can also interpret it as the passive se. Passive, not past tense, passive as in passive voice, like as se habla español most of the time, is spoken. Or even in the example with the blood donors, you need to donate blood, or we could interpret it as a passive se, as blood donors are needed. That's the passive voice, like are needed is spoken, not preterite and perfect like we were talking about earlier. And again, no specific subject. And now take a look at one last use of se, which I find slightly comical to me as a native English speaker and not a native Spanish speaker, something that they do in Spanish that we definitely don't do in English, which is called the unplanned se. And you'll find out why this is funny here in a second. All right, but first, let's figure out what this is saying. Se me cayeron las pastillas. What happened? Spilled the pills. Who spilled the pills?
You did.
I did. Right, exactly. I spilled the pills. In English, I take responsibility for spilling the pills. But in Spanish, they don't. Actually, what's our verb in this example? What's the verb in the example? Well, in Spanish, what's the verb in the example? Cayeron, right, exactly. Is that in the yo form? No, it's not. So what determines the conjugation of this verb? Whose fault is it? The pills, which I think is why I find it funny. And anytime anything accidental or unintentional or unplanned happens in Spanish, which is usually when something falls or drops or is broken or, I forgot my homework in Spanish, you don't take any responsibility for that. Yep, it forgot me, really is what we're saying. Anytime we lose our keys or our phones in Spanish, we don't take responsibility for that. Anytime we break something, I broke the dishes, I broke the plates, I broke my phone. Miren. I don't have to take responsibility for it. So the pronoun is actually an indirect object pronoun, and that's who it happened to, the poor person who was the victim of the spilt pills. And so we use these indirect object pronouns, and of course our verb is in the preterite because it just happened, it was an accident. And then the se just tells the listener or the reader that it wasn't my fault, it was an accident. Okay, so let's look at some more examples of this passive se, or not passive, this unplanned se. In chapter 9, we were talking about las celebraciones, right? Las celebraciones. A los recién casados se les cayó el pastel. So let's focus on meaning. What happened at the wedding reception? The cake fell. Right, exactly. So here we have our verb, which is what? I don't know. It might be like good luck. They say when it rains on your wedding day, it's good luck.
Really?
It's just to make people feel better. Just like when a bird poops on you. It's like, they're like, oh, it's good luck. It's just to cheer you up. Okay. Luck, schmuck. Whatever. A los recién casados. If you're compatible, it'll work out. If you're not compatible, it's not going to work out. That's what it comes down to. Okay, that's my advice on marriage. All right. A los recién casados. Cayó is our verb, and what's determining the conjugation of the verb? The verb's conjugated on what? Recién casados, the newlyweds, or el pastel? El pastel, exactly. And a los recién casados has to do with what in this sentence? Not el pastel, not cayó, but say or lace? It's actually the lace. That's who it happened to. Remember? That pronoun, me, te, lay, or lace, is who it happened to. And this remember? Hopefully you do. Remember I was talking last spring about the object marker or the personal Whenever you see an before a person, that's telling you, I'm not the subject in the sentence. I'm the object. Object, right, exactly. So that's who it happened to. Otro ejemplo. So let's figure out what this means first. What happened here? Y miren, el vocabulario. Este es el verbo. She lost the antibiotics. Right, exactly. That's what we would say in English. It was her fault. She lost them. Exactly, but in Spanish, oh no. The antibiotics are to blame. See, right. And it happened to who?
Andy's mom.
Yep, exactly. Paco's mom. Whoever. That's obviously from a movie. What movie is it?
Oh, it's from Toy Story.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out, I was like, they will know. And when I was thinking of they, I was thinking specifically this class. I was like, they'll be able to tell me what movie this came from because, I just Google imaged it. Okay, anyway. A la mamá de Paco, which is why we use le. Third person singular. Okay? And then the se is just there to tell us it was an accident. What about this one? What happened here? Miren el vocabulario. So what happened? In English, we would say the doctor. No? This verb. This is a good one to know. It's going to affect your pesos here in a second. Forgot. What did she forget? To take the x-ray. Radiografía. Where do you go if you need an x-ray? Radiology. Yes, exactly. The hospital first and then, or wherever. And then radiology, radiografía. But really, whose fault is it? The x-ray. Who did it happen to? The doctor. That's why we have the lay. So here's where the pesos come in. This concept of forgetting something, you all are students. We forget stuff all the time. So on that language letter, tengo una pregunta, or puedo ir al baño, or es la hora. Those expressions we use in class, add this to it, because if you use this concept in context, not just randomly raising your hand and using it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but let's say, for example, you forget your book, or you forget your pen, or you forget your pesos, and you use this phrase, I'll give you dos pesos. You'll start off with say, because that way I know it was an accident and it wasn't your fault. And then you use me, because you're the victim in the accident or the unplanned event. Say, me. And then we have our singular form, olvido. Whoops, I spelled that wrong. Un momento. Of course I spelled it wrong. Olvido if it's singular. So, el libro, or una pluma, or un papel. If it's singular, use olvido. But if you forgot your pesos, olvidaron. You need to make it plural. Se me olvidaron los pesos, profesita. Or se me olvidaron, I don't know, something else plural. If you use this anytime you forget anything en la clase de español, este semestre, or en 202, van a ganar 2 pesos, because it's so important to convey in Spanish when you accidentally forgot something, okay? Even if you forgot to do your homework or whatever the case may be. Okay, chicos, bueno.